I thought we'd have another look at some underside couching. So if you haven't seen the first video, you might want to pop over and have a look at that now. And that one just covers really how to do the basic stitch in a straight row. And I've done that one in gold as well, so you can see how it would look in the traditional material. But I thought for this one I'd show you a filling, so how to do lots of rows of underside couching together. And so you can see maybe a little bit more clearly how the stitch works. I'm going to do it in a slightly unusual thread, not one that would traditionally be used, but it helps you to see clearly what's going on. So I'm just going to use this tapestry wool here on quite a large Count Ada fabric, so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got two different coloured threads. The yellow one is the one that you won't see, so that is the one that will be underneath, and the purple one is the one we're going to couch across. So if you were doing this in gold, the purple one would be the gold, if you like. But don't worry too much about that. I want to show you the pattern it makes really. So I'm just going to work a little section here. So here's a line of underside couching, a single row, and we're going to build on top of that and fill in an area with it. I find personally it's better not to start the thread that I'm going to couch with and over. I just like to just put them in the fabric there and then come back and finish the ends later, and you'll see why that is shortly. So the purple one's going to be on the top. I'm going to come, where should we start? Over here, I think. So this one stays on the top. We can just leave that one loose. I'm going to use the yellow one to couch over the thread with. So I will go over the whole process again. So the trick with underside couching is to take your needle up and down in the same hole. If you don't go in exactly the same hole, then this stitch doesn't work, which is why it's quite nice on this large fabric. And if you're practicing it, you might want to find a similar fabric while you practice and then work your way down to the gold. I found that's a little bit easier. So I'll do it a little bit closer. So I'm going to come up in line with that purple thread. This couching thread comes up and down in the same place, so you don't want to come to the side of it there, you want to come in line with it. So I'm going to go over the top of the purple and down the same hole. So if you want to pull that thread back, opens that hole up, hopefully you can see that there, opens the hole up, and the needle goes back down the same hole. So don't pull on the purple one at the minute, just resting it in place. Just pull it down to take up the tension, and then just wiggle that yellow one down and it pulls through the purple, and the yellow disappears, and now that purple thread has just gone underneath the fabric. Now if I keep pulling the yellow, the purple goes right way through and I get a big loop on the back. I don't want a big loop on the back, so I'm just going to pull that purple thread out again, so your couched thread, and I'm just pulling it. I've got my hand on the yellow one underneath, so I'm just pulling that purple till the yellow one is right underneath this fabric. You might just see that there, I'm pushing that with my finger. If I pull the purple too much, the yellow pops back out. So it's a fine line between just pulling that yellow through, but not so there's a big loop on the back. So pull it through and then just take up the tension on the purple one, just till you feel that tighten around the yellow thread, and then that's in the right place. So let's do another one of those. So in line, just lay the purple one in the right direction, pulling out the way so you can see. Back down the same hole, so just pull back on the yellow thread, it opens the hole up and allows you to put the needle in and out nice and smoothly. Just take up the tension, then just pop that yellow one through, just pull back on the purple, just work your way along like that. So it's just really feeling the threads through so that the yellow thread does go through to the back. You don't want to see the yellow thread at all, but you don't want massive loops of purple on the back either, because we'll struggle later if we have that. So it's just about feeling the two threads on the top and the bottom until they're in exactly the right place. You might just hear a little pop as that goes through to the back. That's fine, but you don't want to see any yellow. So if you can see the yellow on the top, you've not pulled it quite far enough through to the back. As it goes through, if you pull it too much purple on the back, just take up the tension. And I've just found that practicing with this thicker thread really helps to get what that feels like, and once you've got the feeling for it, you can change down in your threads. So I'll just do a couple more and then we'll turn around and come back, because coming back is quite important as well, and what you do with that. This is all about going down that same hole. Everything is about that. Just pop through to the back, take up the tension. Okay, so a nice row of underside couching. So when they traditionally did this in medieval embroidery, they would use it for a filling, and they'd fill lots of shapes in it in beautiful patterns and designs, but I'm just going to show you the basic filling, and it makes a brick stitch pattern. So what we're going to do is come back the other way, like so, and we're going to do our couching stitches in between the previous ones. So I'm just going to turn it down to the next row. So bringing my yellow up again, back down the same hole, just to turn the corner. I've heard that little pop then. Now you can see that thread going back the other way. So if I bring my needle up now opposite, or exactly in line with my first couching stitch, what happens on the back is the purple thread goes through to the back, and you end up with lots of lumps all in a row, and they all hit each other and you can't get the needle through. So if you offset those, so if I come up here, in between those, and come that way around, it's easier. Right a minute, so over the top, that's it, underneath, just pull that yellow thread back to open the hole, because it can get quite thick on the back where you pull this thread through to the back. So if you offset them, you don't have all that thickness fighting each other. You get this nice bricking pattern. You'll see that start to come as I do a little bit more. So in between your previous row, and then at the end I'll just show you what it looks like on the back, so you can see the pattern clearly on the back. So in between each one, and if you can do it right in the middle of each one, make them look nice and even, you'll get a really lovely pattern. But that comes with practice, so don't worry too much while you're practicing. You see I'm just pulling up the tension on the purple. Pull it away, needle back down the same hole, just take up the tension first, make sure the purple one's in the right place, pull through with your couching thread, just enough so it disappears. If it's too much, just take up the tension. Don't pull it hard on the back, don't yank it on the back, just controlled tension on that, just to pull it through is what you need. Don't grab it and pull it. Take up the tension. I'm holding it quite close underneath, wiggle it round, just pull that through so that yellow couching thread disappears. And traditionally they would have used for their couching threads for this, so it was gold on the top, and they would have used a linen thread underneath, so completely different thread to what's on top, and the linen thread was really strong and just meant when you pulled it, it didn't break and it didn't wear. Okay, so now I'm at the end. I'm going to turn again and come back the other way, exactly the same way. It will turn. If you want a sharp turn, you need to turn it on a couched stitch, otherwise you won't get a nice bend. So let's put our thread back that way, the way we're going, over the top, down the hole, take up the tension, just pull it through, and then we're back the other way. Now we're going to brick that stitch again, so in these stitches now will line up with the first row. So there's the stitch on the first row, it goes across there. There's the second row across there, so the third one will go back to where my original one was. You can see that pattern starting to form, and they would use these patterns, lots of variations of them, this is the simplest, but they would use these patterns to make designs and shapes, floral shapes in there as well. And they were very subtle because it's all you can see is the colour that's on top, so in their case gold and in this case purple. And just by couching this thread in a different place you'd get all these different patterns. So really very clever use of the stitch. You can see that pattern start to take shape now. See how you get quicker as well with a little bit of practice. Okay, so I'll work a couple of more rows and then I'll just show you what to do with the threads at the end, and then we'll flip it over and have a look at what's happened on the back. Okay, so I've worked a little section there, so you can see that pattern now on the top and see how that starts to form. So here's a single row, and then we've gone back and forth, alternating where the stitches come, so making a brick pattern with the stitches to fill in that area. I've left the ends on the top, don't worry about these, we can take these through in a moment to the back, and then we'll just flip it over and I'll show you the pattern it makes on the back. Okay, so this is the back, and you can see this definite bricking pattern from the back now. So the purple thread is the thread that's on top, so that would be your gold thread. And you can see just where we pulled it through to the back, just a little bit, and it just couches over the yellow couching thread. So this would be the linen, and this runs all the way along the back. Remember, there's none of this on the front, and the purple thread is just holding that linen thread in place. It's quite a good way to check if you've actually pulled it through. Just flip it over on the back, and if you can see these little holding stitches, you know it's come through to the back. And then you can just finish off your ends here, and you can just slide them underneath your stitches for a nice neat finish, like so, just back and forth a couple of times just to secure the ends. You can do the same with these as well, and you can see I've left myself enough of an end to be able to get in the needle. Just finish those off nice and neatly. Don't pull them too tight because it might pop out from the front, so just enough to secure the end. You can do the same with all of your ends, get them all neat, nice and neat and tied off so it doesn't come undone at all. But you can also see from this why it's good to do this bricking pattern, because this is the thread from the front, and if these all lined up it would get very bulky on the back, and your rows of stitching start to split away from each other and you don't get a solid finish on the front. So this is quite important that these are bricked in order to be able to actually technically work the stitch. And if this is in gold thread as well, so if this purple is gold thread, it's a bit more wiry and it doesn't sit quite nice and softly as this thread does, so it matters even more with them. So there you have it. So there's another underside couching video for you in a filling stitch. So it's a basic brick stitch underside couching.